Welcome to another episode of Diversity Lab. Tonight we have with us Yunlong, a martial arts instructor. Happy New Year.
新年快乐.
Could you please explain us why it's important for a Chinese community and Chinese people to celebrate New Year's Eve?
So in China, no matter how far the families have been apart or how far their family has been away for work-wise, at the end of the year we would all gather up in a round table to celebrate our spring festival. So it's basically bring the peace, the prosperity and the unity back to the family where it all began.
And how important is it for you to celebrate your Chinese culture when living in Northern Ireland?
Oh, that's very important for me, because to be able to feel a part of the belonging of a community, literally, I mean, family is ultimately everything to me, because no matter where I am or how far I am, as long as I get a chance to sit down with the family, I mean, it really makes me feel like to be a part of the society, as well as being far, being in another country or being in somewhere else totally in a different environment than the way I grew up.
You're a martial arts teacher, which is also a very strong part of Chinese culture. Could you tell me when you decided to actually get involved in martial arts and how it happened?
Oh, it all began when I was 5. There's a saying, like father, like son. My dad was a very highly active guy. He's a martial art phenomenon himself. So I think basically I started when I was 5 years old, beginning to train in the park that we were used to live.
It means that you started being involved in martial arts where you were living back in China?
Yeah, oh yes, oh yes.
And then what happened that you and your family actually ended up living in Northern Ireland in Belfast?
My father was teaching in the park that, as I mentioned previously, and he had hundreds of basically students. It was all started from when the Derry City Council, the mayor's secretary, went to China in early or late 90s. So basically my dad was introduced to a gentleman who came from Derry, or the legendary or Londonderry city. He wanted to study Tai Chi in China, and so then he was later days introduced to meet my dad. And when he came back to Derry or Ireland, I think he began to encourage people to take part in Tai Chi. So there was a Tai Chi union or a Tai Chi group in Derry. This is where my dad was invited over in 1999 to come to Ireland, Northern Ireland, to teach Tai Chi, and it all began from there.
And could you tell me why Chinese people are so passionate about martial arts? Of course, the most famous Kung Fu master Bruce Lee is recognized and well known internationally. But what's behind the culture of martial arts and Kung Fu in China that nearly every single person is involved in some sort of activity in relation to martial arts?
I think ultimately speaking that Kung Fu is the foundation of our culture, and it's so important that it came that through time, as in through farming, through agriculture, through hard work, and later days we used it in militaries and also in sports, in science, in medicine, in every perspective view in life as well. Even the way of thinking is quite martial art in China.
And how difficult it was to actually maintain your Kung Fu skills after arriving to Northern Ireland? Did you have a chance to maybe link with other people your age, children from Chinese community, and practice martial arts, or as it was mainly based on father-son relationship?
It basically started from the father and son relationship because my father was working with the Chinese Welfare Association and the Generation Y was with all the young people in Northern Ireland and within different regions. So he would have went and taught in Derry, he would have went and taught in Belfast, he would have went and taught in Korean. So there was a group of networking of young people and elder people. I can still remember him taking me all the classes that he went and introduced myself to all his students. And pretty much that was the lifestyle and the way of our lives until today.
Do you know what are the beginnings of Kung Fu in Belfast? Is there a history of Kung Fu in relation to Northern Ireland in Belfast, which you're aware of?
Oh yes, when I was doing a little bit of research on Kung Fu and martial arts in Northern Ireland, it traces back, I think, in 1960s when the Cantonese came over back in the days. Firstly, they brought the lion dance for the Chinese New Year, and the lion dance is actually a form of training in Southern Kung Fu style. It's for the conditioning of the body, it's for the Chinese New Year as well as the extra training on top of their training. So it dates back in, I think, the early 70s, the late 60s in Northern Ireland, in Belfast.
Is Kung Fu or martial art is helping to integrate people in Northern Ireland? What is your experience?
Well, there's a saying that we say wushu brings unity for community. So through all the programs that we actually run, it helped us to work with the likes of saying the Polish group, the local Irish group, the East Belfast program, the West Belfast program. Oh yes, so it definitely helped to bring people from every nation, every, how do you say, community to in one community and doing the same thing. And you know, to me, for me to be able to see that when the kids and the adult and the elderly can see each other doing the same thing, no matter what background and community they come from, and able to enjoy and share and laugh at with the same, how do you say, with the same activity, it's quite something else.
I know that you use different languages, basically basic words coming from different languages when teaching Tai Chi, people coming from different cultural backgrounds. How important for you is to use different languages to build relationship with people?
To me, it's very, very important because to be able to make the connection, to make an effort, an approach, I think from every perspective in communication-wise and also culture exchange-wise and technical-wise as well, because I think ultimately what that helps is that the other person is actually able to listen more whenever the language has been taught in their own home language, especially when they're away from their own homeland and when they're in somewhere that they've just moved, or it's all about making them feel like the part, feeling like a sense of belonging to the community.
So you, for example, can teach Irish-speaking people Tai Chi using Irish language, and you can teach Polish people using Polish language. This is unbelievable.
Very terribly, but I do try.
When you work with local children when teaching them Kung Fu and martial arts, what is their approach? Are they very keen and happy to get engaged in your classes, or do you have to actually use some sort of tricks to get them engaged?
Oh yes. Firstly, it's same as working with everybody. Icebreaker is a huge important thing. Basically, ultimately, I have to break the ice by showing them what ultimately Kung Fu is, by showing them a very simple and yet understandable principle of what is Kung Fu.
when it comes to Kung Fu, are there any myths or stereotypes behind Kung Fu itself, which you would like to tackle or maybe explain? Because, as I said before, some people might see Kung Fu as a very violent sport or very violent activities. What would be the common myth around martial arts in general?
Firstly, with the young people, when I take a martial art workshop or a Kung Fu workshop in schools, when I ask people, what is Kung Fu? Some people would go, or some people go, and I would laugh because there isn't any workshops like this before, and for a lot of the people, they've actually never seen a Chinese person before in some parts of Northern Ireland, and especially when we're talking about something that is so exotic and is mythical, and in what we see on TV, it's all about punching each other on the head and kick each other on the face. So people only see what people want to see, but what they don't really see is the philosophy behind it, as in why do we do this in the beginning of the training and why do we do this at the end of the training, for example. And you know, kids are very easily to be drawn to the things that is eye-catching, but rather than the theory.
I don't really want to go into much into your personal life, but you said that you started training Kung Fu when you were a child.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment you must be a very skillful in the martial arts. Could you explain me the grades behind the level of skills you have?
Certainly, I'm currently a third Duan, or San Duan in Chinese, as a wushu athlete or a wushu teacher or a Kung Fu instructor. The top level of the Wushu Dongwei system would be 9. They are divided into 3 animal signs. From the beginning, 1 to 3 is the animal sign of the eagle. When you go to 4, 5, 6, then it's the sign of a tiger. And then when you go into 7, 8, and 9, then it's the sign of the dragon. They come under a badge. And then they get divided into 3 colors: brown, silver, and gold. So as your level increases, or as you get better in training, you will be able to be examined by a school or a committee. So now we're actually able to do the Wushu Dongwei grading in Belfast, and it was only recently the Chinese Wushu Association given the Irish Wushu Association the go-ahead to grade young people and people who practices Wushu in Ireland. So now we can actually coach and train and qualify people professionally and systematically in Belfast.
So can you become a dragon when living in Belfast?
Hopefully. That would be the ultimate goal, eh?
I know that basically there is a historical aspect of wushu or for kung fu communities related to Belfast, to one of the colleges. I know that your dad was involved in bringing a very skillful wushu master from China in 2004, you mentioned?
2004.
Could you tell me why it's so significant?
Certainly. It was the actually first ever Wushu Dongwei grading outside China. So previously there was never a case like this. We brought friends from Zimbabwe, Poland, Switzerland, and many parts of the Europe to come and participate and enjoy their love of wushu or kung fu or Chinese culture in the city of Belfast. And my dad was appointed as the liaison officer between overseas and China after that.
Did you ever, in your day-to-day life, did you ever had to use your skills in order to defend yourself? Sometimes in Belfast we hear about a number of attacks on people who are not local, people who are coming from ethnic diversity background. Did this ever happen to you in Belfast?
Fortunately, not as far as I can remember, but I can remember there was 1 or 2 cases where I used kung fu or wushu, or how do you say, helped other people in diffusing a situation by without using the physical part of it, just by how do you say, calm the situation and making sure that everyone is fine. As you know, at the weekends in some places of Belfast can be a little bit
Uncomfortable.
yeah, it's just when people from all different part of communities get together and they get. So it actually helped. How do I say this? I've actually helped other people as well as helped myself.
At the moment, if you focus on the international stage, you know the sports such MMA are gaining popularity. Are you a fan of MMA sports, or you rather against? Because it seems that you see wushu or kung fu as a way of life rather than a sport. What do you think about actually increasing popularity of MMA?
Well, Magic, it's a really, really good question, because there's many people asking me that why has not many Kung Fu masters taken part in these MMA contests. To me, I see it that studying Kung Fu ultimately is the goal of flowerizing life and culture and wealth and health being, individually and also community and internationally. MMA is a very competitive sport, as we can hear that, and also we can see that after training MMA, people always get injured. It's quite a sport where you don't want to be in for very long, so basically go in and out. Where Kung Fu is the opposite, where you want to stay as long as possible, because it's cultivating qi and it's cultivating life, and the longer you stay, the better you are. So to me, I'm not against it, because it's what people like, and through their hard training they do achieve what they want to achieve. So I do respect them in every perspective as well, as a sportsman and as a hard trainer, as a hard student, as a hard worker. So I can understand what they try to pursue within their fields as well.
Well, from a perspective of someone who is not involved in martial arts or kung fu, I might see Kung Fu as a very violent sport, but from what you were saying is more about, again, discipline, learn discipline, and basically make sure that you're going to find a balance between your body and your mind. So basically it means that you didn't start learning Kung Fu just to, be able to go and fight against other children in the school. Is it not? Is it the case?
No, totally not. In fact, actually, I've never really understood Kung Fu until recently. I always seen it as a sport, and it's as a way of training. But to me now, ultimately, Kung Fu is actually everything that we do in life. Like what Jackie Chan said in the film of The Karate Kid, when he was explaining the philosophy behind Kung Fu and what is Kung Fu to Jaden Smith. He said basically Kung Fu is everywhere in life, and it's everything in life.
I also would like to ask you about Tai Chi, because you also mentioned before that Tai Chi is actually quite popular around Belfast, and it's very popular in China. And actually, if you see or if you have friends coming from China, there is a great chance that some of them going to be involved in doing Tai Chi. What Tai Chi is about? Why people are so passionate about Tai Chi in China, or people coming from China?
Well, firstly, we have to understand what is Tai Chi. As everyone knows, the symbol of yin and yang. But basically, Tai Chi is to bring the balance into day-to-day life, because we live in a very fast-paced lifestyle today. Everything seems to be always go, go, go. Even in school, it's always go, go, go. So this is where Tai Chi comes in the morning, where I'm taking some of the Irish schools on Ormer Road to do early morning Tai Chi stretches and warm-ups, because the kids actually tells me that when they practice Tai Chi, they can feel their body, it has more energy, which they don't want to fall asleep when they're actually in their classrooms, which is great. And people in work tells me that Tai Chi helps them to sit better and feel more comfortable. And also I can see at the weekends people take it for more than just a leisure. I think ultimately it's a healthy, balanced between the fast and the slow lifestyle, which is we call the yin and yang, yin yang.
So today you brought with you a number of nunchakus. Is this your favorite kung fu weapon?
Oh, absolutely, yes, yes.
Is it because it's a favorite weapon of Bruce Lee?
Partly yes, and mainly yes as well. Oh yes.
Could you tell me what's the history behind using nunchaku?
They started actually in agriculture background. It come from the farming side of the history of our culture. People used the nunchucks with a long stick back in the days, with a small stick in the front. It's actually the beat of the barleys and the malts of the grains. And in later days, the farmers beginning to use that tool as part of the practice in their forms. And as you know, mainly kung fu or karate or all those martial arts are based upon on agriculture, farming backgrounds.
Is it difficult to master it?
Not if you practice.
So, for example, if I decided, because to be honest, this would be possibly the first time today when I actually have a chance to hold a real nunchaku. If I decided to practice today, how long it would take me to become maybe semi-professional?
I would say within a year, if you train on a twice-a-week basis, between an hour or 2 hours each session. And very quickly you'll get the grasp and the feeling and the lines and the geometries and the circles within the nunchucks pretty soon.
Is it painful?
Oh, it's painful, yes. Oh, it stung you and it can bite you and it can hurt you, but it also makes you happy.
So it means that you have to create some sort of personal relationship with the nunchaku.
Oh, certainly, yes. Absolutely.
Explain us the different figures, geometries and lines when using nunchaku, and I also know that you kindly agreed to actually have a short demonstration for us today.
In nunchucks, it basically follows the principle of circle. Mainly the principle of all martial art is based on the theory of geometries. The square, for example, is where circle comes from. So for able to do a perfect circle, we must be able to draw a perfect square. And what we're doing within Kung Fu or any other type of martial art is literally drawing the geometries with our body. Just like the artist would draw the circle and square and triangles on a paper.
In the Chinese calendar this year, we actually starting Year of the Monkey. Could you please tell us what we should expect from this year, from the Chinese Year of Monkey?
The monkeys, as you can see in Kung Fu, the monkey form is very fast, unpredictable, and quick, smart, and yet with a little bit a little bit of cheekiness. So it should be a year that for many of us to have the same, the same momentum that what the monkeys are able to bring for us, in work-wise, in study-wise, in life-wise, and in general.
So we might expect 2016 to be a bit unpredictable.
I would say so, because everything is changing. And changing for the better and changing for the good, work-wise, love-wise, relationship-wise, study-wise. I mean, everything in everything.
Ian, thank you very much for coming to the studio today, and I'm hoping that through your conversation you would be able to encourage more people to get involved in martial arts in general. I would like you to do a short presentation for us, but before we move to that, I would like to say thank you very much again, and
谢谢.
谢谢.
Thank you.